Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? Welcome back to the Plague Pit. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Me? Well, you would think that after a full 7 days of talking about the CMA debacle, I might be bored, and yet, surprisingly, each new day brings a new revelation. And besides, at a time when honesty and truthfulness of the industry is under so much scrutiny, it feels quite nice to be the one speaking honestly and truthfully on the subject. Oh, and incidentally, I am planning to go back over the past week's CMA coverage. I'm going to pull together all the various bits and turn it into one binge-ready show to save you searching through the archives to find out exactly what's going on. I'll let you know when that's ready, but it's likely to be tomorrow, I would imagine. Now, just so you know, on the subject of tomorrow, the Saturday Social will be back at 10 a.m. As usual, there will be no video, no script, and no agenda. But I do have a funny feeling I know the direction the conversation will travel in. So without further ado, let me roll the intro and get this show on the road. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. I have no idea how, but apparently it is Friday the 1st of July. As that remarkably persistent guy just said, welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, John F. Hunt has become the latest NFDC member to publicly declare the provision it's made for fines that will likely arise from the CMA investigation into bid rigging. Just ahead of the story, that brings the cumulative total to £23 million, and there are at least 4 more companies yet to announce how much they have set aside. We're going to call in on New Zealand and visit the Pigeon Palace as it takes its final flight. I'll attempt to draw some parallels between the presidency of Donald Trump and the regime currently running the National Federation of Demolition Contractors. I'll leave you to decide just how well I do. And we're hoping, no, we're not hoping, we're hopping back to Hillhead to peruse the Doosan Stan. And plus, we'll be playing out today with what happens when the Danes and the Italians come together over a Carlsberg. And we're going to get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's pause a while to see who among the rich and the shameless will be celebrating a birthday on this day of days. Happy birthday! Really must learn to drink faster. It's many happy returns. Many happy returns to the first man to fly across the English Channel, Louis Blériot, and to Mutiny on the Bounty actor Charles Lawton, to the founder of a cosmetics empire that still bears her name, Estee Lauder, to actress Olivia de Havilland, and to actor and director Sidney Pollack. Happy birthday also to Ghostbuster Dan Aykroyd, to Princess Diana, and to multi-discipline Olympian Carl Lewis. But be calm, my beating heart. Far more importantly, a very happy birthday to the woman whose face adorned my teenage bedroom wall. A woman whose face still makes my heart beat just a little bit faster. Blondie herself, the wondrous Debbie Harry. Many happy returns to them, one and all. The next time you're having a bad week, spare a thought for the National Federation of Demolition Contractors. We are now 7 days into a seemingly unending avalanche of crap that has engulfed the NFDC and that could yet bury it entirely. And the latest news turd to plop down upon the already heavily stained head of the NFDC is that another high-profile member, John F. Hunt, has set aside £5.6 million to cover the cost of fines it anticipates in relation to its admitted involvement in the bid rigging scandal. With only 4 of the 8 NFDC members that have admitted involvement having revealed their individual provisions, the current cumulative total already stands at an eye-watering £23 million. The level of shame and ignominy that this brings upon the demolition sector in general and upon the NFDC, frankly, is rather more difficult to measure. In its latest report and accounts for the year to March 2021, which were filed at the end of last month, John F. Hunt said it had set aside £5.6 million for a matter relating to isolated historic regulatory breaches. That is believed to be a reference to the bid rigging probe. The company said the investigations have now been settled with the liability agreed at £5.6 million, payment of which has yet to be finalised. Interestingly, John F. Hunt currently has two membership listings on the NFDC website. The first in the name of John F. Hunt Limited, the second in the name of John F. Hunt Regeneration. And it is the second of those that won a place on the £1.1 billion demolition and land remediation Pagabo framework just a few weeks ago. Would you like some mint sauce with that sacrificial lamb, sir? Meanwhile, Erith Group, one of the two NFDC members contesting the CMA findings, said it was the subject of two ongoing regulatory investigations of its own. One was a fatal accident and what it is referred to as a regulatory investigation. The company says the outcome of both matters are considered to be undeterminable at the time, and the directors have therefore made no provision in these financial statements for any costs arising from this matter. I'm going to be discussing all things CMA with just a sprinkling of Donald Trump a little bit later in the show.
Axoft and Svantec are your high-end partners for noise, vibration, dust and air quality systems, sensors and software. To find out more, visit axoft.co.uk or call 01234 639 550.
Now, some of you might recall that I recently had the huge honour of being one of the judges for the New Zealand Demolition and Asbestos Annual Awards. That's the NZDAA, as they're known to their friends. One of the companies that featured heavily in those awards was a company called Ward Demolition, and they actually went on to pick up some well-deserved silverware. I'm about to show you why. This is the company hard at work at what was known, up until fairly recently, as Pigeon Palace.
Hi, I'm Dalton Ward. I'm standing out the front of our one of our largest demolition jobs going on at the moment in the city. We're on the corner of Wolf and Albert Street, and we're taking down a 7-storey structure with a 5-storey structure adjacent to it. It was once called the Pigeon Palace because there was a whole heap of pigeons living in it. So we've started the building with a strip out. We didn't actually have any room or a ramp to set a crane up, so we had to initially start by chain blocking the machinery throughout the building because we couldn't actually access the middle floors with a crane. It was actually quite challenging, so we hand broke a hole in the floor and then attached the chain block from the floor above that and hoisted the machines up the building by hand. One of the initial challenges was guana built up from the pigeon. So basically guana is pigeon poo, and when it's dry and inhaled it's actually really deadly. It's got a lot of diseases that can occur from exposure to that. We had to clean the floors out before we could get in and start demolishing the floors. Very similar to sort of removing asbestos in the sense that you use the same PPE and the same techniques of removal. You want to get rid of the contamination altogether before you can open up that area again.
We've done the floor by floor. We brought the high reach in, which is behind us. It was a bit tricky. Dalton did a great job. The thicker steel rebars in the building were quite hard to cut. He managed to get through it and he did a great job at doing it. He's a Top Gun operator.
Hi, I'm Bailey Ward. I'm one of the operators here on the Albert Street job. As you can see behind me, we've just about finished the pink and grey building. We've had the high reach in here for the past week, getting all the high points of the building ready for the 50-ton to come in and finish the job. All that's left is the 3-storey parking building. This consists of a floor by floor down to the last floor, where we'll move in with machines and finish the job.
It's been a really exciting project. It was good to see the high reach come in and chew away at the building that had taken us months to get to that point. I'm glad to see it going.
Good film, eh? Just so you know, that is a short edit of a full 7-minute film that charts the entire project. If you'd like to see that full version, I've added a link in the chat. Now, a couple of relevant comments. Andy Hare, another day, another multi-million-pound provision. What will be the final jackpot figure? From all that I'm hearing, I reckon we're not far short of £100 million. Only based on what I'm hearing, but I do wonder. Gary Muirhead, could they track the machine up the staircase? Gary, I grew up watching Doctor Who and the Daleks. They're really bad at stairs, these things. Good question, though. Peter Haddock is back in the land of the living after his trip to all things Las Vegas. And he did pick up on this Top Gun operator. It is a brilliant phrase from Ward. Frankly, Peter, I refer to you as a Top Gun operator pretty much all the time, but that's a whole other story. Ward Demolition New Zealand, look at impressive outfit, preparation and planning to the fore. As I said, and I will get back to the whole thing in a minute, but as I said, I did look over probably 3 or 4 of their entries for the NZDAA awards late last year, early this year, and really they are on a par with anything us here in the UK could offer. So fantastic stuff. Go and check out the full 7-minute film. It really is worth a viewing.
The Miller GT series heralds a new era of unrivaled power and cutting-edge intelligent coupler technology, increasing job site safety, machine versatility and productivity. It's the added versatility that you need at the value you can afford. To find out more, visit millergroundbreaking.com.
Okay, before we get back to the unravelling of the CMA investigation and the unedifying unravelling of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors as a body of any credibility, I would like to share with you a very brief recent American history lesson. I'd like to see if you two can draw any parallels between former President Donald Trump and the upper echelons of the NFDC, or if I'm just being even more cynical than usual. President Donald Trump appointed more than 200 federal judges in his 4-year tenure. That's more than his predecessor, Barack Obama, appointed in his 8-year stay at the White House. Trump also appointed 3 Supreme Court justices during his time in office, the most since Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, and the highest number of any single-term president since Herbert Hoover in the 1920s. With the benefit of hindsight, it appears that all those judges were appointed so that even if he was impeached or found guilty of inciting the insurrection on the 6th of January 2021, he would not face the full force of the law. Sadly, at the same time, this skewed the US judiciary so far to the right that they make Hitler look like a big soft liberal. That is why women across the US now face the very real prospect of jail if they have an abortion, even if they require that abortion because they were the victim of a rape. It's also why each new school shooting is greeted not with tighter gun controls, but with calls to arm teachers. Okay, here endeth the history lesson. So what has all that got to do with all things NFDC and CMA? Well, Donald Trump's campaign to cover his overlarge backside by surrounding himself with like-minded individuals is torn straight from the NFDC officer playbook. That's why none of the 8 companies that have admitted involvement in the bid rigging scandal uncovered by the CMA have been shoved out the Resurgam House exit. It's also why so many of the Federation's senior officers pass seamlessly from one top job to another. They're the president of the NFDC 1 year, they're the president of the National Demolition Training Group a year after, and the majority seem to eventually pitch up as president of the Institute of Demolition Engineers at some point too. Now, don't get me wrong, some of those that have taken on some or all of those senior roles did so with the very, very best intentions. Some had a vision for the industry, and it took 2 or more senior roles for them to try to fulfill that vision. Sadly, just as many have passed from one top job to another because they were allowed to do so by the team they had built around them. And even more sadly, some took on multiple top jobs because the only thing they like more than chains of office is a free lunch and a free stay at a top London hotel at the expense of fee-paying members. All of that backside covering and behind-the-scenes political manoeuvring has rendered Joe Biden, on paper the most powerful man in the world, largely unable to enact legislation. Largely unable to enact legislation of his own, or to block changes to anti-abortion laws that have pushed back US women's rights by about 100 years. And that same arse covering means that That same arse covering means that those NFDC members that have admitted involvement in bid rigging cannot be expelled because, seemingly, they have friends in high places. And there is just one final parallel I'd like to draw. Well, at least for now, anyway. Because of all that historic manoeuvring, there is a very real possibility that Donald Trump may yet run again for the presidency. The most divisive and regressive US president in living memory might get a second shot at the job, despite all his transgressions. And it currently appears just as likely that the NFDC will also elect a former president for a second shot at the top job, even though he too was divisive the first time around, and even though he remains deeply, deeply regressive. Machiavellian much? Okay, it's time for another revisit to the Hillhead exhibition. I was going to tell you who we're going to see and what we're going to see. I'll let this bloke do it.
Now, one of the companies that's been busiest in the new product development department is Doosan. Doosan Stan is right here. Let's go and take a look around.
Nice, wasn't it? Anyone remember the Fast Show with the jazz guy who would just go, nice? That's kind of what that music reminded me of. Let's have a look. A few people have commented on the music. Maybe I need to bring a bit more jazz into play around these parts. Sounds like Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club. Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, man alive. The 80s, that was a regular hangout back in the day. And Peter Haddock said, where did you find that piano music? Just brilliant. Feels like I'm back in Las Vegas. Peter, we aim to please. Now, I'm not entirely sure how many more of those walkarounds we've got left to bring you because I was filming and my son was filming as well. But stay tuned next week as we continue to dig through the hard drives and the archives to bring you more of the Hillhead experience. And we're going to play out today with a film that demonstrates how a good idea has the ability to travel, how cross-border cooperation can deliver solutions, and how membership of the European Demolition Association can pay dividends. What I'm about to show you is a Danish demolition contractor, P. Olsen, using the top-down way system developed by Italian giant Despe to bring down the iconic Carlsberg Tower. I'll tell you a bit more about it straight after this. Top-down way, probably the best tower block demolition system in the world. I actually had the pleasure of getting up on that top-down way system when it's being used by Safedem up in Bonnie, Scotland about 6 years ago. I was impressed by the system then and even more impressed by the coffee. The team working on the top-down way platform was almost exclusively Italian, a little Italy in itself. And they brought their own coffee machine with them too, Italian espresso, hundreds of feet above Glasgow. That really is one memorable cuppa. Incidentally, I do recall that Safedem actually struck a deal with a very good and a very authentic Italian restaurant close by. So not only did that keep the Despe team well fed, it also made them feel very much at home in the city of the deep-fried Mars bar. It really was some of the best collaborative work I've ever seen. I'll tell you more about that in the chat if you're interested, but you can have a look in the chat. You can go straight over and have a look at my film of the top-down way up in Scotland. I think that just about does that. So let me play this and then we'll get onto the chat because there's some good bits.
Sorry to interrupt the guy with the funny glasses, but if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button as it helps our channel. Or, better still, share this video with a friend or a colleague. Thank you. Right, back to Beardy.
Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. It also wraps up the week. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, and thanks for watching. But if you do have the time, I will see you on the other side, when I can find it, of this.